So we're sitting around the fire, keeping our toes and fingers warm. Just kidding, we don't have a fire. It looks like it. But we got a Mr. Buddy here, or Mr. Happy, or whatever it's called.
Mr. Heater.
Mr. Heater, is that really the name?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why I keep calling it like Mr. Buddy or whatever. Mr. Happy gives it a different connotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that adapted up to the 11-pound propane tank, so we're set for a while.
It's late in the evening.
Yeah, it's like 5:30.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets dark out here very quickly.
Yeah, we feel like senior citizens going to the early dinner special, but hey, it's winter, or early winter, late fall.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part of the trip, Jordan?
The entire trip or today?
Okay, what was your favorite thing today?
Actually doing the hard scrabble. I was a little leery of that after our chat with the ranger up at the station. But I'm glad we talked about it last night. Had a plan. We got up early this morning. Had breakfast, broke camp, and come over here and got started on the west side of the trail, the White Rim Trail. And it was one of those that we were actually doing part of hard scrabble and didn't even really know it. You know, I mean, with what we had done a couple days before out at Bears Ears, I think really set us up nicely. We got to do some investigating, testing, figure out, you know, our lines a little bit. And by the time we got here, it was just take your time and got through it. So I thought that was actually pretty fun, up until the part where I about tipped my Forerunner over.
You just had one wheel off the ground.
It felt like all four of them.
I don't know if I ever had one come off. It's hard to, I don't know what that feels like. I don't know how to tell from the inside. I didn't feel it rock at any moment like I would expect that to be like. But it was on my mind because when you rocked and you had one wheel come up, and then I've got the tent on top, so I've got a little bit higher CG.
Right.
That caught my attention for sure. So hard scrabble, yeah, I'd say that was my favorite too, just because it was a challenge, and it was an interesting mixture too, because so over on the east side, we were up on the rim pretty much the whole time. Both sides have a switchback, which is totally impressive and shocking and puckering. The one over here on the west side, I'd say, is a little more bumpy and scary. But the east side, it's all up on the rim, whereas here there's definitely some parts where you get up high, but then there's parts where you get down by the river and it's sandy and you're going through river beds or creek beds or whatever. That's kind of interesting too. Of course, we barely touched the trail.
Oh yeah. What, between both days we've maybe covered 20 miles of it?
Yeah.
Because yesterday it was only like 7 or 8 miles that we went.
That sounds crazy that that's all we did, but I think you're right. Because we had to double back.
Right. Another thing that makes it interesting on the west side here where we're at today is the switchbacks are much more narrow than they are over on the east side. There are spots over on the east side, but today it seemed like the entire switchback was just real narrow, even the turns.
And you had that close encounter with that Nissan that came around just right at the worst time.
Yeah, that's true. Had to back up a little and then go to the outside lane that was soft.
Yeah, the downhill soft edge.
Yeah.
That's always a little bit scary.
But it was fun. I feel like we got some legitimate trails in today. Earned our medallions that we have on our vehicles now.
Yeah, level up. Badges.
We just need more.
Yeah, so we didn't actually get to see the geological marker that we used for the badge for the vehicles, because I believe it's accessed through the paved road, and then you go hiking for a little bit to go find it. But I'd say after hardscrabble, we earned it.
I agree.
What about the rest of the trip? Like, outside of Canyonlands, what was your favorite?
I could have done without Dark Canyon.
Yeah, me too.
But where we stayed a couple nights ago near the Nizani campground.
Up on the hill where we could see Bear's Ears.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that might have been my favorite. Last night was pretty good because it was so warm. So from a temperature perspective, last night was awesome. But from a view and just an overall feeling of we've accomplished a lot of trail, really good trail, a lot of really good scenery for the sunset was when we stayed just above the Nizani campground, I think.
Yeah. And well, this kind of campground here is awesome in its own way. I really like the BLM and National Forest method of you just drive around and you look for spots off the trail that maybe someone's already used it, maybe not, but it's, you're not destroying any of the nature there by pulling off and backing under a tree or something. Yeah, I really like those kind of campgrounds or campsites.
I've been impressed at how well the trails have been maintained. I mean, the White Rim has a reputation for a reason, and it's a lot of rock, exposed rock that's very rough with sand around it, fine red dust. So it's slow going. Over here at Hardscrabble, and then we didn't get a chance to make it down to Murphy Hogback, but that's supposed to be the other real technical portion of the trail. Those are real slow going, but coming through Bear's Ears, I mean, there really weren't that many parts where we were going below 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just chuckling because there was Dark Canyon where we were hauling because we were trying to get to our campsite on time. But yeah. So I also really liked Valley of the Gods. The trail, I'm trying to think if there was anything challenging on it. It was just a gravel road most of the way. There might have been a few hills and stuff, but nothing like here. And we had a really sweet campsite.
Yeah, that one was really cool.
We were up in the north end, nestled between a couple of the gods, I guess. I know it wasn't part of our joint adventure, but I thoroughly enjoy having done Medano Pass and getting through it.
Living to tell about it.
Yes. In the moment, there were a couple times where I thought I was going to be that guy that ends up in the news or whatever. And, but yeah, I'm looking forward to putting that video together and seeing whether people just say you're stupid or whether they enjoy it.
You'll get a few views out of it, I'm sure. The story sounds amazing, so I can't wait to see what the video looks like.
So I do wish we had more variety of video footage. We kept talking about, hey, let's get out and video, from the side or whatever, do drive-bys or. So I got that one of you going up the most difficult part that we found in what's it called? Hardscrabble, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you got some GoPro footage today, which is cool. I really wish we had done a lot more of that, but I think we'll get more efficient with our camera gear, and then we're hoping to bring along some other friends in future trips now that we've kind of started this out and figured out the basics. Mm-hmm. That'll help too, to have some extra hands, because probably not the best thing to be messing around with, hitting the start and stop and focus on the camera while you're going up and down along a shelf road.
The trails today did not lend themselves to that kind of videography for sure.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it was a really fun trip. We finally got a lot of the planning that we talked about, the what ifs. What if we pack this? How if we pack it that way? We actually got to shake that stuff down on this trip, so we got a better understanding of what we need to pack, what we don't need to pack. So I feel a little better about that.
Yeah, I definitely have too many clothes and probably too much food. But then again, if the food kind of fits in the boxes, so it's not a big deal. But the clothes took up extra room. Other things, like I have this small, tiny little refrigerator that'll hold a few items. But while that's good in the summer, it's kind of a waste in this temperature.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most nights, tonight's probably not going to be that much different. You could probably freeze drinks by setting them out overnight, unprotected.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's been normally in the lower 20s at night where we've been staying. Last night was in the low 30s probably, because this morning when we got up and got going in the vehicles, it was saying 36 already. So I figure it was in the lower 30s. So keep that in mind if you're visiting the Canyonlands region in mid to late November, that it gets pretty cool at night.
So we were talking earlier about our vehicles and how impressed we were with the stock vehicle performance.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously we've done some mods to them, but suspension-wise and armor protection-wise, so you've got the sliders.
That's right.
But otherwise, I think you don't have any special skids or custom skid plates or anything, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I've got nothing underneath, so I think I had a couple scrapes here and there, but generally got a lot of articulation flex when I needed it.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was maybe a couple times, well, okay, aside from the snow on Medano Pass, there's only been a couple times where I felt a slip, and it was only very momentary, like going up that really challenging part on hardscrabble. Mm-hmm. I had a little bit of a hop and a skip where it slipped under me, but I didn't slide at all. It just, the one tire slipped for a moment.
So let's talk for a minute, like what version you have. So we both have 2016 4Runners, but you have the trail rated?
I got the trail premium, yeah, so it's got some of the, trail premium with the KDSS on the suspension.
Okay.
So that's one difference from yours, is that besides the trail having a few more widgets, like so you've got the downhill assist.
That's right.
Whereas I have crawl control, so it's basically the same thing, but it's got 5 different settings, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it also works going uphill. Does yours do uphill, or?
It's only in the downhill.
Okay, so I can set mine if I'm trying to crawl up a really sandy or loose dirt hill that's at a good angle.
Really, all I have available at that is 4-wheel drive low, and then go into shift down into first gear.
And you've got A-Track too.
Yeah, it has A-Track. So I have the SR5 package on mine, and I used downhill assist today multiple times, especially over at the southern end of hardscrabble, because there were a couple of descents there that were pretty steep and very narrow, so I put it on downhill assist, and it worked really, really well. I had no issues with it.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of those slopes, even in low first gear, I was still riding the brake. And so that's when I used crawl control for once here.
But overall, I've been very, very impressed with the 8 days that I've had my vehicle off-road, climbing various rock faces and the trails that we've been on. I have no issues with it. It's a very capable vehicle.
And then I guess kind of keeping in the same line, so I switched from the dualers that come with from the factory. I switched to BF Goodrich KO2s. Mine are E-rated. They're I think I got the 285s. And then you've got the Nitto grapplers.
That's right. Yep.
And both of us have been really pleased with our traction. I mean, granted, it's been dry. You know, if it had rained, it'd be maybe a different story.
Sure. But you had snow.
Well, okay, so I'll say, obviously on ice, on a slope, it didn't work out so well. But I don't think any tire would have handled that, even with chains. But otherwise, in the snow that we did together, going west from Monticello, and then in the snow that I encountered, both at Cuchara Pass and Medano Pass, it handled pretty well. There were a few times that I had a little bit of sliding laterally, like left and right, but thankfully it was kind of like in a rut. It wasn't like I was going to slip off the side of the trail.
So the out of this, obviously, you know, we talked about we got the stock skid plates that come on it. We both have some stock skid plates. But doing this kind of trail, doing hard scrabble, the rocks that are protruding and sticking up has made me nervous. But I didn't make any contact, so I got that going for me. I don't think you did either. But really want to put some more armor underneath, especially around the transfer case and the oil pan, because there are definitely rocks out here that if you're not paying attention or you pick the wrong line, you could do some serious damage.
Yeah, or like in that one spot, if you slide sideways a bit and you lose the line that you wanted, all of a sudden you end up on the rock.
Yeah. So I think that may be my first real modification to the vehicle, just to put some more protection underneath it.
Yeah.
And cab heaters. So sleeping in the vehicle while I'm 6'1", and the way that I have it set up, I fit fine lengthwise in the vehicle. It works out really nicely, especially if it's just a single person in the vehicle. I can crawl right back there in the sleep station and with my sleeping bag and pad, and I'm out, no big deal. But I get cold pretty easily, and as cold as it has been, it's getting, you know, in the lower 20s. It can get pretty cold in the vehicle, so we've been talking about some different things about potentially heating blankets or better sleeping bag. You know, I'm sure when people see this or hear this, that, you know, they'll be like, well, just pick a better sleeping bag or a better sleeping mat, one that actually will retain heat a little bit. Fair enough. But I will be doing some sort of upgrade in the future for winter camping or near winter camping and sleeping in the vehicle, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I used the tent 4 or 5 times maybe. And we made use of the annex. We should have done the annex earlier. I forgot it actually isn't that hard to set up and tear down the annex compared to the tent. The hardest part with the tent really is the cover. The cover and the straps that hold the cover down. If it wasn't for that, the tent is really pretty simple.
The cover in the morning is the hard part.
Right, getting it back on there when you got cold fingers and it's cold and it's not very pliable. But I've learned, I I'd planned on having a sleep station in the back for the few days that I was getting over here before I met up with Jordan, but I thought I would use the tent every night after that. But I can appreciate having a better single sleep station when it is just me. I mean, the tent is nice, but it just takes a little bit more time to set all that up. So if it is just me, it's kind of nice just to move a few things in the back and then crawl in there.
Yep.
So planning for the trip and then executing the trip, I'd say we learned a lot there too.
Yep.
You know, obviously we talked about how White Rim, we thought, you know, oh yeah, you can do it in a day, but that was bad judgment for both of us.
I agree.
But then, you know, we had other times in the trip where, you know, you look at a map and you see all these different trails, and some of them are thicker dashed lines and some of them are thinner dashed lines. And so obviously you can judge, okay, well, the thinner dash lines are going to be tougher. But that's, you know, that's really not telling the story.
No.
And then we've got some books like the Fun Treks books where people have kind of rated them and taken pictures and tell you a little bit about the trail. But even those, like, the conditions may change over time. Like they rated the last trail we did today, the Taylor Canyon, as medium, but
they rated it on the same level as the White Rim Trail.
Yeah,
because they're both blue.
Same as the hard scrabble section.
Right, which is completely different.
Yeah. Now, maybe the Taylor Canyon was like just a hair past what they judged to be easy based on the types of vehicles, but really they're just not in comparison. But then also like Dark Canyon, for example, we were cruising through Bears Ears until we got to that one trail that we thought was going to lead us out to the middle section to what we thought was a vantage point. And then the road just got way worse.
Yep.
And it was a lot slower going, but there's no way to tell looking at a map.
No.
So we were talking about, you know, should we use Google Maps, Google Earth? I know there's websites out there too, like All Trails and I can't remember the names. There were some sites that I found info for my Colorado trip earlier this year, but unless someone has scouted it and shared that information, it's just really hard to judge. So I guess that's kind of one of the things that we've learned, is just you have to be real flexible in your planning.
From our video, I mean, you got some dash cam video of that trek out there to Dark Canyon, so we'll try to label that correctly and get some of those some of that video on YouTube so you can compare and just see what the trail looks like for yourself, not just topo maps or Google Earth view. The other thing with that particular trail that we learned really quickly, and then I think we used to our advantage the rest of the trip, is, oh yeah, by the way, the sun's setting in the west, and the majority of this trail is going westerly. So coming up on hills with short turns thereafter got pretty intense because you weren't able to see. There'd be dust on your windshield, sun right in your face, and you're coming up to a turn that you're really not sure how sharp it is. So I think we used that to our advantage later in the trip. So I think we learned something there early on and adapted and used it.
Yeah, there were moments on that trail where both of us remarked how we literally could not see anything except the sun. It was so blinding.
Right.
And you stick your head out the window and that didn't help. And it's like, well, I guess I'll inch forward.
Yeah. That was a little intense. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing your planning, whenever you're going to a new area. What time of year is it? What direction are your trails going? Are you going to be going on those trails? And associated time of day. You know, out here, Canyonlands, even Bears Ears, you're looking at 5 5 o'clock and you've got a little bit of daylight left around this time of year. So just think about the sun and where it would potentially be in your vision.
Another thing we started getting better at was fuel consumption and kind of planning for, okay, how far can we go before we need to be able to get back to a city and fuel up. It's kind of a challenge too, because your mileage might go down depending on if you're going real fast and have wind resistance, or if you're doing a lot of rough terrain. But then if the terrain's not too bad and you're just kind of idling the whole time, slowly cruising, then you might get better mileage. So we started trying to keep track of, okay, how many miles and how long did it take us to get back into this point, so that when we head back out, we know what to expect. Gaia was a little helpful in some of that, but I was thinking probably next time I'm going to bring a little notebook and try to write stuff down, just because that way it won't disappear.
Right.
Sometimes in the app, some of my waypoints and tracks will just disappear. It's I don't know where they went. So there goes that useful info.
Yeah, we definitely want to keep that. Anything else? Bring lots of memory cards for your camera.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we have several SD cards. I brought my laptop and we both brought external hard drives. So we've been dumping pictures and video to the hard drives every other night or so. But yeah, just being able to have redundancy in your files, so that if one drive or card fails, you don't lose everything. And then being able to have an empty extra card during the day, so you're not running out of memory and then pulling off to the side and trying to dump it to the laptop. So we managed to do that at camp each night and not waste any time on the trail. Of course, extra batteries too.
Right.
So we had extension cords that make use of the AC output in the back, but I got a cord that runs all the way up to the passenger seat, and that way I can change things out while I'm sitting in the driver's seat. My first trip this summer, I had a tiny 3-foot or not even that 2-foot extension cord. So anytime I wanted to charge something, I had to stop the vehicle, go into the back, and even then, if I'm rocking and rolling, it might pop loose and I wouldn't know about it. Whereas by having it up in the passenger seat with it's like a 10-foot cable, I think.
Right. I
can just check it every once in a while and see that the lights are on. That was really handy. Good morning. It is, what is today? Monday. It is Monday morning. We are breaking camp, or we've already broken up camp. We didn't really set up all that much. It's 5:38 local time, so we've got probably another 20-30 minutes before dawn starts breaking. And as we said yesterday, we're just trying to get out early and make some good time on the highways to get to Caprock Canyon for tonight. And then that'll leave us some reasonable day tomorrow to get home to our families. So we just have, I forget how many miles. I should have looked up. Some miles left on the White Rim Trail before we get to the switchbacks up there. Forgot about this part being so narrow. I'm gonna gear down. I'm in high right now, so I'm at least gonna gear down to first gear. Just take it slow. I'm going to go down to low gear when we get to the switchbacks. I think there's just a little bit of shelf here until we get down to the river side. If I remember right. But we had a good night. We hooked up the heater to my propane tank, so we had heat for as long as we wanted until it was time to hit the sack. Nice and quiet, nobody ended up coming out to the other side, so we were just secluded all night. And I think both of us, I know I stayed warm all night, I'm pretty sure Jordan did, just in the vehicles. I think we're starting to learn the nuances of how to stay warm in the vehicle. When it gets down, it's 27 degrees Fahrenheit right now. That's probably the coldest it's been all night. It typically keeps chilling down until the sun comes up, at least in this part. We also have multiple layers on. I know I'm going to have to start shedding layers because I've got the heater on. Try to get up to the switchbacks and then I'll peel off some layers because I know that's going to wake me up. So we are, according to the map, the Colorado River is just on my left. But you can't really tell with all the plants growing up like this. It's kind of interesting.